Good morning. This is Omni View, episode 11, Balanced News Perspectives. Today is March 10th, 2026. We'll cover what happened, how different viewpoints frame it, so you can decide for yourself. Trump claims Iran war could end soon, but threatens escalation if oil supplies are disrupted. Let's start with that unfolding situation in the Middle East, where the ongoing war with Iran continues to dominate headlines. U.S. President Donald Trump has described the conflict as progressing ahead of schedule, suggesting it could wrap up very soon, while also issuing a stark warning that any disruption to global oil supplies by Iran, particularly through the Strait of Hormuz, would lead to severe consequences. Meanwhile, a spokesperson for Iran's Revolutionary Guard pushed back, insisting that Iran alone will determine when the war ends, and defended their recent strikes on Gulf neighbors as necessary amid the tensions. Conservative outlets like Fox News are framing Trump's comments as a display of decisive leadership, emphasizing how his optimistic timeline reflects swift military gains and the importance of his threats in safeguarding energy security worldwide. On the other hand, progressive voices, including those in The Guardian, are more skeptical, highlighting the potential for prolonged instability, the economic burdens, and humanitarian costs, and questioning whether such rhetoric might actually extend the conflict rather than resolve it. Internationally, reports from France 24 note that while Trump's words have somewhat reassured jittery markets, Iran's defiant response underscores a deep trust divide with Gulf states that could persist for years. What's interesting here is how these conflicting narratives might shape diplomatic efforts. One question to consider is how Trump's proposed timeline could influence global oil prices and supply chains in the coming weeks. Staying in the region, there's a significant leadership change in Iran that's adding another layer to this conflict. Mojtaba Khamenei has been elected as the new supreme leader following the death of his father, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed in a missile strike on the war's opening day. Many Iranians are expressing fears that the son will maintain the same hardline stance, potentially prolonging the repressive policies and the ongoing war with the U.S. and Israel. From within Iran, state-aligned perspectives might view this succession as a stabilizing force, ensuring continuity and resisting external threats, though citizen accounts in outlets like the Mail Online reveal widespread terror over the prospect of unchanged authoritarian rule. Western media, including CNBC, often portray it as a missed opportunity for reform, suggesting it could harden Iran's position and extend the conflict, while some Gulf neighbors emphasize the eroded trust from recent strikes. Progressive international analysts are calling for a closer look at public sentiment, warning against relying solely on official narratives. The question nobody's asking enough is what this power transition reveals about the internal dynamics of Iran's regime. Could international pressure actually sway the new leader's approach to the war? Related to that, Iran has been publicly defending its military strikes on neighboring Gulf countries, claiming they were justified responses to aggression. Gulf states, however, are countering that these attacks have created a massive trust gap, one that's expected to linger for decades, especially since the strikes targeted U.S. assets and key oil infrastructure, ratcheting up regional tensions. Iranian officials, as reported by CNBC, present the actions as defensive necessities to protect sovereignty, resonating with nationalist sentiments at home. In contrast, Gulf and Western outlets like The Guardian criticize them as unprovoked escalations that threaten long-term economic stability and diplomatic ties. Centrist international coverage highlights how this disagreement exposes deeper Middle East divides, urging a verification of claims on both sides to gauge any real potential for reconciliation. How this trust gap might reshape future regional alliances is a key question worth pondering as the war evolves. Shifting now to domestic U.S. politics, where a special primary election in Georgia is underway today to fill the congressional seat vacated by Marjorie Taylor Greene. In this jungle primary, Republican candidate Clay Fuller, who has Trump's endorsement, is facing off against Democrat Sean Harris and others, with the top two advancing to an April 7th runoff regardless of party. It's drawing national eyes as a litmus test for Trump's clout within the GOP and a possible Democratic foothold in a traditionally conservative district. Right-leaning media, such as Fox News, are portraying it as an opportunity for Trump-backed conservatives to solidify their hold, spotlighting Fuller's background as a former prosecutor and the stakes in fending off Democratic gains. Left-leaning outlets like The Guardian are focusing on the upset potential, touting Harris's military experience and framing the race as a rejection of the extreme positions linked to Greene. Centrist and international observers see it as a window into broader U.S. political shifts, particularly Trump's influence in the South amid national polarization. One thoughtful question here is what this election might reveal about evolving dynamics in red districts. Could a Democratic win hint at larger changes in Georgia's landscape? Meanwhile, in Latin America, Chile is bracing for a conservative shift as Jose Antonio Cast, an anti-abortion hardliner, prepares to take office as president, sparking fears among women's rights activists. Cast has advocated for a total abortion ban and historically opposed progressive measures like legalizing divorce, with his background, including his father's Nazi Party ties, drawing comparisons to the most conservative leadership since the Pinochet era. Progressive groups and human rights advocates, as covered in The Guardian, view this as a major setback for gender equality, worrying about rollbacks on healthcare access and linking it to a global conservative wave. Supporters on the conservative side frame his policies as a restoration of traditional values, prioritizing family and moral issues over what they call radical reforms. Centrist analyses in international media note Chile's polarized society, with some Latin American perspectives warning of potential social unrest if these policies proceed unchecked. How Cast's agenda might impact women's access to healthcare is a crucial question, especially in the context of broader conservative trends across the region. Turning to business and markets, which are closely tied to the Iran conflict, global stocks have rebounded and oil prices dipped following Trump's comments about a possible quick end to the war, though experts like BlackRock's Wei Li point out that uncertainty doesn't always trigger risk aversion, with broader economic fragilities at play beyond just Iran. Financial analysts from firms like BlackRock, as discussed in Bloomberg reports, see the market's resilience as a bet on resolution, driven by immutable market dynamics and investor optimism. However, critics in economic newsletters highlight underlying risks, such as inflation spikes from potential disruptions, and note how some sectors, like arms and crypto, are profiting amid the human costs. International business coverage from France 24 weaves in the opportunistic side, with progressive voices questioning who truly benefits from prolonged conflicts. A question to consider is how geopolitical events like this war could affect long-term market stability and who stands to gain economically if it drags on. Before we go, tomorrow, watch for updates on the Georgia primary results as they could signal shifts in Trump's political influence heading into the runoff. That's OmniView. For full source links and more context, check out today's written briefing on the OmniView summaries page. As always, compare outlets, look for primary documents, and separate what's known from what's assumed. If balanced perspectives are valuable to you, share this with a friend and subscribe wherever you listen. See you tomorrow.
Without taking the dive, we went on vacation. We had a nice time. My doomsday is set.